Good morning, dear friend. Let's imagine a slow, quiet moment together. You step out onto your porch or small patio, tea in hand, the steam curling into the morning air like a memory. The birds are just starting their chatter, the sun hasn't quite crested over the fence, and the garden, even if it's only a few potted friends, is still dressed in dew. You sit, not rushed, not needing to be anywhere but here. Your hands may be a little worn from life's work. Cradle the warmth of the cup. You look around and see the ordinary things you've gathered over the years, some useful, some just sentimental. And in the quiet, you wonder, could that old drawer become a herb box? Could the rusty ladder be a shelf for plants? Could the past bloom again? Yes, it can. Because, dear one, you don't need youth to create beauty. You don't need a big wallet or a strong back. You need a bit of imagination, a dash of patience, and the kindness to see something not for what it is now, but for what it might become. That's the joy of upcycling. That's the gentle art of bringing life back to forgotten things, and perhaps in the process, breathing new joy into ourselves too. Today, I'd love to share 20 ideas with you, soft, soulful, simple ones that turn junk into joy, right there on your patio. Each is meant to be kind to your body, your budget, and your heart. You don't need to lift heavy things or crawl on your knees. Just light touches, creative thinking, and a little love for the things we already have. So settle in with me. Let's walk through them slowly, like a stroll through an old garden where every object has a story, and every story has a second chance. Remember that old teacup, the one with the little crack down the side? Maybe it came from your grandmother's china set, or maybe it was just a thrift store find that made you smile. It may no longer hold tea, but it can still hold something sweeter, a place for the birds. Turning an old teacup and saucer into a bird feeder is one of the simplest and most charming ways to bring life to your patio. And the best part, it can be done without heavy lifting, bending, or expensive supplies. Here's how: take your teacup and matching saucer or two mismatched pieces if you prefer a whimsical look. With a strong, weatherproof glue, secure the teacup to the saucer tilted slightly forward, so that a little bird can perch on the rim and easily reach in. Once it's dry, you can attach the saucer to a sturdy branch railing or shepherd's hook, using twine, a macrame plant hanger, or even a vintage chain necklace if you've got one lying around. Place it at eye level or just above, no need to strain your neck or stoop. Fill it with birdseed and watch as little visitors flutter in and out, adding movement and music to your quiet garden space. You'll find that the birds don't mind a chipped rim or a faded rose pattern. In fact, they seem to favor the feeders with a bit of character. Maybe, just maybe, they recognize something familiar in them, something gently worn, but still full of purpose. And perhaps you'll find yourself looking out at that teacup and smiling. A thing that once held comfort now brings it again in a different form. It's a small act, but a beautiful one. Because just like us, a teacup doesn't need to be perfect to still offer something lovely to the world. Do you still have that old wooden ladder tucked away in the garage? The one that's a bit too wobbly to climb but too solid to toss? It may have helped you hang curtains once or paint a nursery wall long ago. But its climbing days aren't over, not quite. That ladder still has one more purpose: to lift up beauty. Turning a wooden ladder into a vertical plant shelf is not only a graceful way to reuse what you already have, but it also saves space and strain. No digging in the ground, no bending or heavy lifting. Just a place to display your favorite potted plants, all within easy reach. To begin, stand the ladder upright and secure it safely against a wall or rail using rope or brackets, especially if it's going outside where wind might catch it. Then place shallow pots or small planters on each step. You can line them up neatly or let them spill over with trailing vines and herbs. If your ladder opens up, you might even secure boards across each rung to make mini shelves. Old clay pots, tin cans with drainage holes, or thrifted mugs work wonderfully here. Try mixing plants that cascade with those that stand proud, like sweet potato vine and geraniums or thyme and marigolds. You're creating more than a garden. You're composing a soft vertical song of green and color. And because everything's off the ground, tending to your plants becomes much easier. You can water, trim, or admire without ever having to crouch. It's a small gift to your back and a large gift to your patio. There's also something quietly poetic about it. This ladder, once used to climb, now holds life instead of lifting it. It becomes a display of resilience. Weathered, yes. Sturdy in a different way. Offering beauty not by reaching higher but by holding things gently in place. Just like us, no longer racing upward but still offering something rooted and real. Do you remember that dresser drawer that once held socks and scarves? Maybe it stuck a little when you pulled it out, or maybe it still smells faintly of cedar or lavender. Instead of tossing it to the curb, consider this: that drawer can be a garden. A small, fragrant, accessible one right at table height. The drawer herb garden is a beautiful way to keep fresh herbs close by without the need to bend, kneel, or dig in the dirt. It's ideal for a patio or balcony, or even a sunny corner near the back door. Start by selecting a drawer that's not too deep and has a bit of character, maybe chipped paint or a charming old handle. If the bottom is a little thin, you can reinforce it with a bit of scrap wood or a baking sheet underneath. Drill a few small drainage holes or simply add a layer of gravel or pebbles at the bottom to keep roots from getting soggy. Then fill the drawer with potting soil light, and airy is best, and plant your herbs. Parsley, basil, thyme, mint. Whatever brings joy to your cooking or fragrance to your fingers. You can plant them directly in the soil or tuck their pots right into the drawer, making it easy to rearrange or replace as needed. Place the drawer on a sturdy table bench or plant stand, something that keeps it comfortably within reach. If you have an old cart or wheeled shelf, even better. That way your little herb garden can follow the sun throughout the day without you ever having to lift more than a finger. Each time you pluck a sprig for your soup or a handful of mint for your iced tea, you'll feel the satisfaction of usefulness not just from the plant, but from the object that holds it. What once kept socks now nurtures flavor and life. It's a soft kind of transformation. Quiet, unhurried. Just like us, still full of purpose, still able to nurture even if in different ways than before. Do you still have that old metal colander, the one with the worn handles and a dent or two from all those family dinners? Maybe it's been retired to the back of a cupboard, or maybe it just reminds you of your mother draining noodles with a wooden spoon in hand. Either way, that humble kitchen tool is ready for a second act, this time in the garden. Colanders make the perfect hanging planters, already full of drainage holes and charm. And the best part, no special tools, no back-breaking effort. Just a little imagination and a gentle touch. To begin, take your colander enamel, stainless steel, even plastic if it's sturdy, and line it with a bit of natural coconut fiber moss, or even a piece of burlap. This helps hold in the soil while still allowing water to pass through easily. Then fill with a light potting mix and nestle in your plants. Cascading flowers like petunias, sweet alyssum, or ivy work beautifully. So do herbs like oregano and chives. For hanging, you can use chain rope or twine looped through the handles or attached to small drilled holes if your colander doesn't already have them. Hang the planter on a shepherd's hook, a railing, or a sturdy old plant stand. And if hanging isn't ideal for you, no problem. Just set the colander on a pedestal, overturned flower pot, or small table so it sits right where your hands can reach. With every passing day, as roots settle and blooms open, your colander will look more and more like it was meant for the garden all along. And isn't that just the way of things? Sometimes what feels too old or too dented is actually perfect because it has history and heart and room to grow. It's a lovely thing to watch something ordinary become beautiful again, not through effort, but through kindness and reuse. Just like us, the colander may no longer live in the kitchen, but it still has a place at the table this time, the table of life blooming quietly outside. Do you remember the old picture frames that once hung in the hallway? Maybe they held school portraits, black and white wedding photos, or cross-stitch samplers stitched with care. Sometimes the photos fade or the glass breaks. But the frame still stands, waiting for a new story. That empty picture frame, large or small, can become a trellis, a gentle support for climbing plants that need a hand to reach the sun. And the transformation is as simple as it is poetic. Choose a frame with a bit of sturdiness, wood, metal, or even thick plastic, and remove any leftover glass or backing. If you like, you can paint the frame in a soft pastel or garden green, or leave it weathered and worn. Imperfections only add character. Stretch twine wire or thin strips of old lace across the back like a web and staple or tie them in place. These become the ladder your vines will climb. Now set the frame upright in a planter box against a fence, or even prop it gently against the wall of your patio. If it's a larger frame, you can stand it vertically in a pot filled with soil and stones for weight. Plant something soft and climbing sweet peas, morning glories, or even cherry tomatoes if you like to nibble while you garden. What was once a window into the past becomes a frame for the living present, a place where leaves curl, tendrils search, and little blooms peek through like shy memories. Best of all, this trellis doesn't require hammering stakes or lifting bags of soil. Just a little anchoring and a lot of love. And each time you water those plants, you'll be reminded even empty frames still hold beauty. They may no longer carry photographs, but they carry something living, something that changes with the season, yet stays rooted in care. In a way, we're the same. The frame may change, the picture may fade, but the story, it keeps growing. Maybe you've got an old pair of rubber rain boots, the ones your grandson splashed in when he was little, or a pair you used to wear for gardening before they got too snug or cracked at the heel. They may no longer keep out the rain, but they can still hold something just as refreshing: flowers. There's a kind of whimsy in a boot full of blossoms. It feels like a wink to the past, a playful reminder that beauty often comes from the unexpected. To make your own rain boot planter, all you need is a bit of potting soil, a few cheerful plants, and of course, your boots. If the soles are already cracked perfect, you've got built-in drainage. If not, poke a few small holes in the bottom with a screwdriver or nail, just enough to let the water out. This helps keep roots happy and avoids any soggy surprises. Next, fill the boots about 3/4 full with soil. You might want to place a small rock or a bit of gravel at the very bottom to weigh them down and add extra drainage. Then nestle in your flowers. Think pansies, marigolds, snapdragons, or any annuals that enjoy cozy quarters. Try mixing colors, or let one bold plant take center stage. Arrange your boot planters near the front steps on your patio, or even on a low bench or crate where they can be admired without the need to bend down. You might even line up a few mismatched boots for a charming march of color. And if the boots are too worn to stand on their own, tuck them into a wooden box or basket for extra support and rustic charm. There's something heartwarming about it, the way these old tired boots get to stand tall again. Not to protect feet this time, but to cradle life, to offer something new. And maybe that's the message they bring: even when we've walked through years of mud and rain, we can still bloom. Maybe even brighter than before. Do you have an old suitcase tucked away in a closet somewhere? One of those hard-shell cases with worn corners? Maybe a travel tag still clinging to the handle from a long-forgotten trip? If so, you've got more than a memory. You've got the makings of a charming little patio side table and a bit of hidden storage, too. This project is especially helpful for those of us who love things tidy but within reach. And the best part, it requires no nails, no sawing, and no heavy lifting, just a bit of placement and creativity. Start with the suitcase. Give it a quick clean inside and out. If it still has a strong clasp and hinges, even better. Inside, you can store gardening gloves, napkins for outdoor snacks, or seed packets, things you want handy but not always visible. Now, to raise the suitcase to a comfortable height, you have a few gentle options. One of the easiest is to set it on top of a wooden crate turned upside down. These can often be found at thrift stores or even behind fruit stands. You could also use 4 sturdy plant pots of equal height turned upside down beneath each corner of the suitcase, or even short table legs if you're feeling handy. Just be sure it's level and stable so there's no wobbling. If you want a cushion of softness, drape a vintage scarf or linen napkin across the top. Maybe even place a small doily and a pot of flowers. Suddenly you have a surface for your tea, your favorite book, or a cooling glass of lemonade. But what you've really made is a conversation piece. A quiet whisper of travel, of stories of miles once walked. That old suitcase, once destined for storage or the dump, now holds a new purpose in the sunshine. And perhaps you'll look at it one afternoon, hand resting on its lid, and think, just like this suitcase, I've carried many things. I've held tight, been scuffed and weathered. But I still open. I still offer something useful, something kind. We're never too old to be part of something beautiful again. Somewhere in your shed or garage, there may be a handful of old garden tools, rusty hand trowels, dented spades, maybe a cracked cultivator with a wooden handle worn smooth by years of work. Once, they helped coax life from the soil. Now they can sing in the breeze. A wind chime made from garden tools is more than decoration. It's a soft melody of memory, and it's surprisingly simple to make. Start by gathering a few tools you no longer use. They don't need to match. In fact, the more weathered and unique, the better. Give them a quick clean, but let the rust and patina stay. It tells the story. Then find a piece of driftwood, a sturdy stick, or even a wide hanger from the closet to serve as your base. Using twine, strong string, or old shoelaces, tie the tools to the wood at varying lengths. Space them out enough so they gently knock against one another in the wind. If you'd like, you can add a few other touches: keys, metal measuring spoons, or even bottle caps flattened with a hammer. Anything that tinkles, taps, or whispers when the breeze passes through. Hang your wind chime on a shepherd's hook the side of a shed or a beam above your patio. Choose a spot where the wind visits often but doesn't overwhelm. This isn't meant to clang, but to soothe. Then sit back. Let the sound remind you of time spent in the soil, hands dirty and heart full. Each chime is like a footstep in the garden of memory, gentle, steady, still echoing. And isn't that a beautiful thing, that even tools too old to dig can still stir something? Not in the ground this time, but in the soul. Because you too may have seasons behind you. But oh, how you still have music to make. Do you have 2 old wooden chairs with missing seats or frayed cushions? The kind you'd never let a guest sit on but can't quite bring yourself to throw away? Those chairs still have something to offer: a quiet place to rest surrounded by blooms. By transforming them into a planter bench, you can give them and yourself a second life filled with beauty and purpose. And don't worry, this project doesn't require heavy lifting or complex tools. Just a little arranging, a gentle eye, and a touch of creativity. Start by placing the 2 chairs side by side, leaving a small space between them if you'd like. Make sure they're steady if needed. Add rubber tips to the legs or anchor them gently to the ground using small garden stakes. Next, remove the remaining seat structure if it's still in the way. In place of the seat, nestle a shallow planter box wire basket, or even an old enamel basin that fits comfortably in the open frame. Fill it with potting soil and choose plants that spill and soften. Think trailing lobelia pansies, or even a few ornamental grasses that sway in the breeze. To connect the 2 chairs, you can lay a piece of reclaimed wood or a weathered board across the top of both backs, turning the setup into a low bench. It's not for sitting anymore, it's for blooming. This becomes the centerpiece of your patio, half furniture, half flower bed, all heart. And because everything is raised up, there's no kneeling, no straining. You can water, admire, and even change out plants while standing or seated nearby. But the loveliest part: each time you walk past it, you'll see something that was once considered broken, worn out, or useless, now glowing with color, life, and purpose. Those chairs, like many of us, weren't made to be tossed away just because they changed. No, they were made to hold something beautiful. Just like you, still here, still strong in spirit, still growing in new ways. Do you remember the old shutters that used to guard the windows of your childhood home? They creaked in the wind, let in slivers of morning sun, and gave you the feeling of being safely tucked inside. These days, shutters don't often serve their original purpose, but they still know how to offer comfort. With just a little love, a few salvaged shutters can become a privacy wall for your patio. A space-defining accent that adds both charm and a bit of shade, without needing to lift anything heavy or build from scratch. You can often find old shutters at thrift stores, salvage yards, or tucked in a garage from an old renovation. Choose 2 or 3, mismatched is perfectly fine. In fact, it adds to the charm. Wipe them down. And if you're in the mood, give them a coat of soft pastel paint, or let their weathered patina speak for itself. To stand them up, simply hinge 2 together so they can support each other in an L shape or accordion style. If you're not using hinges, lean them gently against a wall or secure the bottom with bricks or planters on either side. The idea isn't to build a fortress, just to create a nook of calm where you can sit, sip tea, and listen to the breeze. Now comes the fun part: decorating. You can hang small potted plants from the slats using wire or twine. Add hooks for lightweight garden tools, dried herbs, or wind socks. Drape fairy lights across the top for a soft evening glow. Let it become a vertical tapestry of memories and joy. And when you sit beside it, shielded just enough from the world, you'll feel something special. The shutters may no longer block drafts or rain, but they still protect something tender: your peace, your quiet, your space to simply be. They've changed, yes, but they've become something gentler. Like many of us, they now offer beauty not by shutting out the world, but by holding space for the little joys that still matter most. Remember those big metal coffee cans from years past? The ones that sat proudly on the kitchen counter filled the air with that warm roasted scent and held enough grounds to fuel a household of early risers. Even long after the coffee is gone, the can still holds possibility, especially on the patio. With a little care and a few simple touches, you can turn an empty coffee can into a glowing lantern, one that lights up your evenings with soft dappled light and old-fashioned charm. First, give your coffee can a good rinse and peel off any labels. If the metal is shiny, you can leave it as is or spray it with a matte finish in a color that suits your space, soft white, garden green, or even a rustic copper. Now for the magic punch, tiny holes into the sides of the can using a nail and hammer. It's easier than you'd think, especially if you fill the can with water and freeze it first. This keeps the metal from bending while you work. You can make patterned stars, heart spirals, or simply scatter the holes like a constellation. No need to be perfect. Imperfect light is the coziest kind. Once your design is ready, place a tea light or battery-operated candle inside. Set the lantern on a small table step or shelf anywhere it can cast its gentle light. You can also hang it by drilling 2 small holes near the rim and threading through wire or sturdy twine. As dusk settles in, you'll see it come alive, tiny dots of light dancing against the wall or floor, flickering like fireflies on a summer night. And all from something that was once destined for the recycling bin. There's a quiet joy in that. A reminder that even when we think we've been emptied, there's still warmth to give, still light to share, because we aren't meant to burn bright all the time. Sometimes it's the soft glow in quiet moments that makes the biggest difference. Think back to the mason jars that once lined your pantry shelves, filled with peach preserves, green beans, or perhaps just dreams of doing a little canning someday. Their thick glass, their sturdy shape. Even empty, they hold a kind of promise. A reminder of simpler times of hands that make and hearts that store. But mason jars don't have to go back into the cabinet. They can come out into the sun, onto the wall, and become something lovely and useful once more. With just aboard a few metal hose clamps and some gentle screws, you can turn a few mason jars into wall-mounted vases or patio organizers. Don't let the idea sound too tool-heavy. This is a slow and steady project, one that can be done at table height with ease and care. First, choose a piece of wood, maybe from an old crate or a leftover shelf. Leave it rustic or paint it soft white sky blue or whatever makes you smile. Attach hose clamps. You can find them at any hardware store or reuse ones from the shed to the board with small screws spaced just far enough apart to hold each jar comfortably. Slide a mason jar into each clamp and tighten gently until it's snug. Then hang the board on a wall or fence within easy reach. Now you have a row of clear glowing vases perfect for cut flowers, sprigs of rosemary, or even colored marbles that catch the light. They can also hold paintbrushes, garden shears, or your reading glasses while you sip iced tea nearby. Because they're up at eye level, there's no bending down, no fumbling. Just beauty right where you can see it and use it. And every time you walk past, you'll see not just flowers or tools, but a little reminder usefulness doesn't end when we're empty. These jars, and maybe we too, can be filled again and again in new ways with fresh purpose. It's not about what we once held. It's about what we can hold now and still offer to the world. You know that moment when something slips from your hands, a mirror falls, a frame shatters, and your first instinct is to sigh and sweep it away. We've all been there. But sometimes what's broken can still reflect light. It can still become something beautiful. A broken mirror with all its sharp edges and splintered pieces might not go back on the wall, but it can be reborn in the garden. And the transformation is nothing short of magical. With a little care and some gloves, you can take those pieces and turn them into a sparkling mosaic on stepping stones, flower pots, or even the side of a plain wooden box. The best part, it's a sit-down project. One you can do slowly at a table with a cup of tea beside you and the birds chirping in the background. Start by gathering your materials: broken mirror shards, strong outdoor glue or mosaic adhesive, and the object you'd like to decorate: a cement stepping stone, terracotta pot, or even a thrifted tray. Wear gloves as you arrange the pieces gently, like you're telling a story in glass. There's no need for perfection. In fact, the more irregular, the more interesting. Glue each piece down one at a time, leaving a little space between them like puzzle pieces. Once dry, you can fill in the gaps with grout or leave them open to catch the light more freely. Let it dry for a full day, then place it where the sun can reach. The effect is enchanting, tiny flashes of silver dancing across your patio, a gentle glimmer as you pass by. It catches your eye in the way a memory does, unexpected and tender. And each time you see it, you might remember broken things can still shine. In fact, they sometimes shine brighter than before. Because in life, as in glass, it's not always the smooth, perfect surfaces that hold the most beauty. It's the pieces that have been through something and still find a way to reflect the light. Do you still have one of those old metal dish racks? The kind that used to sit by the sink, catching warm plates and silverware after family dinners. It might be a little rusty now or missing a piece. But before you think of tossing it, imagine that same dish rack now holding not dishes but delicate little pots of green life. Yes, it turns out that an ordinary dish rack makes a wonderfully simple senior-friendly plant stand no lifting, no crouching, just a clever repurposing of what you already have. Start by giving your rack a gentle clean. A bit of baking soda and a cloth will do wonders. If it's metal, you can leave it raw and rustic or spray it with a pop of color, soft blue, leafy green, or even a cheerful yellow to brighten your patio. Now comes the fun. Those little spaces that once held plates are the perfect size for shallow pots. Think succulents, herbs, or baby flowers. You can slide them in like you would a plate, snug and safe. The utensil caddy. That's a great spot for garden scissors, plant markers, or even seed packets. Place the rack on a table or a shelf so everything is at your level, no need to bend or strain. And because it's compact and portable, you can move it with ease, following the sunlight or simply rearranging as your plants grow. What once held the routine of daily dishes now holds the quiet joy of new life. There's something poetic in that, the transformation of a household tool into a little gallery of green. And perhaps when you look at it, you'll smile and think of all the meals and memories that dish rack has seen. And now all the new ones it still has to give. Because usefulness doesn't retire. It just changes shape. And you too, you are not done offering beauty to the world. You're just finding new ways to share it. Do you remember the old wooden crates that once carried apples from the orchard, or maybe sat beneath a market table filled with glass bottled sodas? They were made to carry weight, to stack up and bear loads, but now they can carry something softer, a garden of your own design. Stacked crates become a beautiful modular wall garden. And best of all, it's gentle on your body and your wallet. No digging, no bending low. Just upright, accessible pockets of green that you can arrange and enjoy at your own pace. Start by gathering a few crates. They don't have to match, in fact, a little variety adds charm. If you find them at a thrift store or salvage yard, give them a light sanding and a coat of weatherproofing, or leave them as is for a rustic feel. Then decide how you'd like to stack them. 3 in a row along the ground, or 2 on the bottom, 1 on top leaning against a wall or fence. Secure them gently to one another with rope zip ties or short screws if you feel confident. But even without that, most crates are sturdy enough to hold steady when weighted down with pots. Inside each crate, you can place a plant directly in a pot or set in a liner with soil. Think of ferns trailing ivy, mint marigolds, or even a bowl of strawberries. Mix textures and heights, and let a few vines spill over the edges for that wild, free feeling. If you're not ready to plant just yet, you can still use the crates to hold gardening tools, gloves, or even decorative stones and shells collected over time. It becomes not just a garden, but a memory wall, part living, part storytelling. And the beauty of crates is how easily they can change with you. Rearranged when you want something fresh. Refilled when the seasons change. Because just like us, crates were built to be useful not just once, but again and again. They carry what matters, hold space for growth, and stand steady even as things shift around them. And maybe in your quiet garden corner, they'll remind you you too are a vessel for life, still strong, still useful, still blooming in new forms. Remember the old mailbox maybe from your childhood home, or a time when letters still came with stamps and handwritten return addresses. It once held birthday cards, bills, and sweet notes from faraway friends. And now, even if it no longer stands at the end of a driveway, that old mailbox still has something to hold garden joy. Repurposing a vintage mailbox into outdoor storage is a sweet, simple way to keep your gardening essentials close at hand without clutter or fuss. And the best part, it's a project you can do while seated at a table, requiring no lifting, sawing, or strain. Start with a standard mailbox. The curved top flip door kind works beautifully. You can find them at thrift shops, flea markets, or even stashed in your own garage. Wipe it clean, and if you like, give it a fresh coat of paint in a cheerful or earthy hue. Sage green, soft cream, sunflower yellow, choose a color that makes you smile. Next, mount the mailbox where it's easy to reach. This could be on a wooden fence post the side of your shed, or a low wall on your patio. Use screws if you're comfortable, or even strong mounting tape for a lighter weight setup. Be sure it's at arm height so you never have to stoop or stretch. Now for the fun part, filling it. Slip in your gardening gloves, a pair of small clippers, seed packets, a hand towel, or even a folded sun hat. You can tuck in a pencil and little notepad for jotting down planting ideas or dates. It becomes your personal garden drawer, weatherproof, whimsical, and always nearby. Every time you open that little door, it will feel like a tiny gift to yourself. Not a letter from someone else, but a quiet reminder that your time, your work, your creativity, they all matter. That mailbox once held messages from the world. Now it holds your tools, your care, your growing dreams. Because even when our roles change from receivers to nurturers, we still have purpose. We still hold so much. Do you have an old metal bucket tucked away in the shed? One that once carried soapy water garden clippings or apples picked from a summer tree? You can almost hear its echoes. The splash of water, the clink of tools. But that bucket hasn't reached the end of its usefulness. In fact, it's ready to bring peace and movement to your patio as a soft, trickling fountain. Don't worry, this is not a complicated project. It's one of those quiet joys that comes together with just a few thrifted items and gentle hands. No plumbing, no digging, just a bucket, a bowl, and a bit of patience. Start by finding 2 buckets or metal containers, preferably one smaller than the other, so they can stack or sit at an angle. Wash them out and leave any natural weathering. It adds charm. If you like, you can decorate the sides with old buttons, stones, or paint, but even plain, the metal shines beautifully in the light. Now comes the magic. Place a small solar-powered water pump, available online or at garden centers for under $20, inside the bottom bucket. Fill it with water. Then position the smaller bucket at an angle above it so the water can gently spill from one to the other. You can rest the smaller bucket on a few smooth stones, bricks, or even an old plant stand for height. Some pumps even come with a simple fountainhead that adds a little sparkle to the top. Once the sun hits that solar panel, the water will begin to dance. Slowly, gently, a sound like memory. Like the old kitchen tap turned on while dinner cooked. Like the hose filling a kiddie pool in July. It soothes without asking anything from you. Place your fountain near your favorite seat and let the sound become your background music, a soft reminder that even repurposed things can still move, still flow, still bring peace. And maybe as the water circles and sings, you'll feel it too. Even in stillness, you are part of something living, something flowing, something beautiful. Because like the bucket, you still hold more than most people can see. Do you have a wicker basket that's a little frayed around the edges? Maybe the handle is loose or the bottom is thinning from years of service. Once it carried fresh linens or garden vegetables, or maybe it just sat quietly in a corner holding yarn or forgotten gloves. But now that basket can become something entirely new, a piece of wall art that adds warmth and story to your patio. There's something deeply comforting about the texture of woven wicker. It feels like memory in your hands, familiar, soft, handmade. And when placed on a wall, even the humblest basket becomes something beautiful. To begin, gather a few baskets in different sizes and shapes, round, oval, shallow, or deep. You can find them at thrift stores, or maybe you already have a few tucked away. They don't need to match. In fact, the more variety, the better. Each one brings its own quiet personality. Lay them out on a table first to find a pleasing arrangement. Think of it like composing a song, some high, some low, all working together. Once you're happy, gently hang them on an outdoor wall or fence using nails, strong hooks, or even twine loops around the handles. Keep them at eye level or slightly above so you can admire the way the shadows dance through the weave in the late afternoon sun. Want to take it a step further, you can tuck dried flowers or eucalyptus sprigs inside or add a silk ribbon to one. Even better, leave one open to serve as a handy spot for your gardening gloves or reading glasses. It's such a simple transformation, yet it adds warmth and depth to any outdoor space. And it doesn't require tools, strength, or anything new, just the gentle act of seeing something old in a different light. That basket, once a carrier of things, is now a holder of stories of presence. Still serving, still beautiful. And perhaps as you sit and look at the soft curve of wicker against the wall, you'll feel it too. We don't have to be perfect or pristine to be part of the beauty around us. We just need to stay open. Do you still have an old curtain rod tucked in the back of a closet? Maybe it once held sheer lace over a kitchen window or heavy drapes that kept out the winter chill. It might be bent at the ends or missing its finials, but don't let that fool you. That simple rod still has grace in it. And with a little imagination, it can become a lovely hanging garden on your patio. This project is wonderfully gentle, no hammering into brick or lifting heavy pots. Just a soft transformation of something that once held back light, now letting nature hang freely in its place. Start with a curtain rod. The telescoping kind works beautifully. If it's adjustable, even better. You can set it between two posts, the edges of a pergola, or even across two hooks on a fence. For a temporary setup, rest it across the backs of two sturdy chairs while you arrange your hanging pieces. Now comes the creative part. Use simple S-hooks, ribbons, or twine to hang lightweight planters, mason jars, or small woven baskets. You can even hang bundles of drying herbs, lavender, rosemary, mint, letting their scent drift softly on warm breezes. Choose plants that trail and soften: spider plants, petunias, ivy, ones that seem to float in midair. The beauty of the curtain rod is that it lifts everything into view. No bending, no reaching low. Everything is right where your eyes and hands can enjoy it with ease. And if you want to move it indoors for the winter, it can hang just as gently in a sunny window or kitchen corner. There's something tender in watching old household pieces take on new life. That rod, which once framed moments behind closed windows, now frames life in the open air. And each little plant that sways from it becomes a poem of growth, of renewal, of small daily joy. And maybe as you sit nearby and admire the dappled green shadows it casts, you'll feel it too, that even things once meant to block or cover can now lift and display. Just like us, once shaped by duty, now softened by freedom, still offering something beautiful to the world. So here we are, dear friend, after 20 soft steps from junk to joy. As you sit with your tea, maybe the evening light has begun to settle across your garden or patio. Maybe you can hear a wind chime made from old tools gently tapping out a song. Or perhaps your eyes rest on a drawer of herbs, a basket on the wall, or a teacup now dancing with finches. It's amazing, isn't it? How the simplest things, a boot, a ladder, a broken mirror, can become something meaningful again. And not just useful, but beautiful. Not just clever, but healing. In every project we shared today, there's a little reflection of you. Of your life, your stories, your kindness. These things may seem small, but they are acts of love for your space, your memories, and your future self. They don't require speed or strength or money, only the willingness to see value where others might not. To touch the past and gently guide it into a new purpose. And isn't that what aging gracefully is all about? You don't need youth to create beauty. You don't need perfect tools or perfect things. You just need your heart, your hands, and your wonderful, well-earned wisdom. So let yourself be proud of every chipped plate you saved, every flower you coaxed to bloom, every corner you brought to life with creativity instead of cost. These aren't just crafts. They are reminders that you still create, still give, still bring light into your home and garden. That beauty, real soulful beauty, has no age limit. So, which idea brought you joy today, my friend? Which item from your attic or cabinet suddenly sparked a new purpose? I'd love for you to tell me in the comments, and if this quiet visit brought you peace, consider subscribing for more gentle inspiration. You're never too old for new ideas, and you're never too far from a friend here. Until next time, may your days be kind, your garden forgiving, and your hands always ready to create. Happy gardening, dear friend.